have your fear, which might become reality. And you have Godzilla, which is reality.
I'm sick of Godzilla. Wake up, everyone! There are two things you don't know about the Earth. One is me, and the other is Godzilla.
We're safe here. No human being can understand that. The monsters on Monster Island can understand it.
Whether he returns or not, or is never again seen by human eyes, the things he has taught us remain.
Hey, welcome back, YHS on Monster Island. Oh, I feel like it's been too long. I know we had a little bit of a stretch, and I'm sorry to all the faithful listeners out there, but Jay, I want to first of all welcome you back here, and also thank you for putting out that kind of in-between audio episode. You saved the day with that.
I don't know about that. I hope we kept people listening to us. I hope it didn't scare too many people away. But it is, it's hard, and you've done this before where you recorded alone. It is very challenging, and you're a little bit on an island out there, and it's a weird feeling. And I didn't love it because, as much as I do like myself, and I think I add a little value, it's one thing, but it's way better when I get to share the sound booth or share the airwaves or share the podcast with the potentate of planetary parasitic predators, the wielder of the wild spirit, the founding father of found footage, and a man that, hey, when he serves you squid, you get all 10 legs. He is, of course, the colossal calamari of kaiju commentators, Mr. Jacob Walsh.
Whoa! I'm never gonna get tired of it. Thank you, Jay. Thank you so much. Hey, I liked your episode. That was just you. I listened to it, and I was really happy to hear that you liked Death Kappa.
Yeah, I really did. And everybody can go back and listen to it if you want to subject yourself to 28 minutes of me just talking to myself. But it was really fun. And, I like that we were able to kind of connect me watching Rego and Ryga, which we talked about on this show, and then something that is trying to do the same thing, but does it, the success is on a different level than what Shinpei Hayashia did with the Rego and Ryga. And it was really fun like I said, I'm watching Death Cap and I'm like, this is good. This is really good. And I get it. I get what he's going for. And yeah, it was really fun. And it was actually fun to record it. All joking aside, it was kind of fun to kind of get the thoughts out there, and hopefully people liked it.
Yeah, good. I always thought that I've only seen Death Kappa maybe twice. But I always thought that the designs and the suits themselves were really well done in that film. So yeah,
well,
it was good to hear that.
I have one request, and it doesn't have to be one that you do soon, but just eventually before the demise of YHS on Monster Island. I know you are a musician and you've recorded a lot of really cool original music. I do think there needs to be an English version of the Idol song in Death Kappa with those wackadoo lyrics. I think it could be a Jacob Walsh mega hit that just transcends music, and maybe it'll be like the
Space
it'll be like
and
the
time.
it'll be like Bill and Ted song. It'll be amazing.
Let's do it. Yeah, we'll do that. We'll put it together. So we're going to talk about, we got 4 movies we're going to talk about tonight.
Yes.
So I don't want to spend too much time on news and all that stuff. There's not really a ton of news anyway. I will say, since as of today, the day we've recorded, Cavity Colors did release their first round of Godzilla shirts. It's all stuff from the original 1954 film. There's some good stuff in there.
There's some good stuff. There's some stuff that glows in the dark too.
Yeah, some pants. There's some like sweatpants, and I bought a couple, but I'm excited. I believe they're doing Shin Godzilla next.
Whoa.
And after that, I don't know what they're doing, but I do know that they got the rights to whatever they want. So,
well, when the Godzilla's Revenge comes out, I will be buying me some Ichiro. Because you don't get a lot of that. It's hard for me to find. I mean, that guy needs to be in Safubi form. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
But no, I will buy some. I'll buy an Ichiro cosplay. With the hat and everything. It'll be amazing.
I hope they do that. That would be great. I do also. I feel like we have to at least mention this. Singular Point is out, and we've both seen it. and even though it's out, we're not really gonna get into it this episode. Next episode, though, we're gonna do Singular Point. I think we're probably both gonna want to watch it all again.
Yeah.
But we promised we're gonna do this episode about these 4 movies. I also just think I need more time to think about Singular Point before
Agreed.
I talk about it. I will give first impressions that I think I loved it. There are some issues here and there, but I think I pretty much loved it. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, it introduced me to the orthogonal diagonalizer. So that it has that going for it. No, I really did. I think it's going to be a fun discussion. And I think it's overall, I really, really did enjoy it. And I think when on a rewatch, I think some of the gaps might be filled in. I kind of know what to expect because I went in there such a blank canvas. And I think some of it was a little like jarring in a positive way, right? I mean, it was, but it got, we do have to discuss why Godzilla animes have to get so technical on, I mean, it plagued the trilogy, but I think Singular Point might have handled it a little bit differently, but we'll save that discussion for our Singular Point episode. I'm excited to talk about it for sure.
Me too. And that's going to be the next episode 2 weeks from now. We're going to hit that. I know this whole episode is going to be us talking about 2 movies that you've never seen and 2 movies that I had never seen, but I did watch one other movie that I just briefly want to mention only because it surprised me in a way. So I've mentioned it before, this. I love watching movies about alligators or crocodiles eating people. It's just like a genre. Even though I made a post about this on Instagram, and like I love alligators a lot. Like I've spent a lot of time around them. I think they're the coolest animal, and I do know that they get like a bad rap, and they're definitely not like the evil killing machines that these movies make them out to be. But also, I just love watching an alligator eat a little kid every now and then. So I ordered a couple films that are a little more on the rare side. And one of them is just this movie called Crocodile. And it's from like 1979. It's a Thai movie. But the reason I specifically wanted to bring it up is because it feels like a Godzilla. It feels like a Toho movie. And I don't know, like the music, the way the acting is, it's dubbed, and it's just, there's a lot of scenes where I'm like, this feels like a 1970s Godzilla film. And then when the crocodile showed up, I was like, how big is this thing? it's like kaiju size, basically. It's like a 50-foot crocodile. And there are these moments in the movie where it's destroying full villages. Like it creates a whirlpool, and the villagers are getting sucked in the whirlpool, and their villages are all on fire and falling apart because of and I was like, it's a kaiju-sized crocodile, basically. So
he could have fit in really good with one of the movies we talk about today. Actually, in a couple of them, but one in particular, amazing.
For sure. But I just wanted to bring that up because I wasn't expecting like a super croc, I wasn't expecting a giant sized. It was a little confusing to me because there is a scene in the movie where the crocodile does get a couple villagers and it looks like a normal sized crocodile. And then later on, I was like, there's literally a scene where there's a man in its mouth, and the man is like a full grown man, and he fits completely inside. And he like, they show the crocodile swallow him, and you see the man like, falling down. And I'm like, the head of that thing's got to be 20 feet long. And I was doing some research, and I found out that the director had filmed another movie that had some crocodile attacks, and that movie didn't get made, so he just took some of that footage and put it in. So that's why the scale of the creature looks all over the place, because some of it is like regular size crocodiles.
Hey, and nothing says Toho like scale issues and using footage cross movie. I mean, I think of War of the Gargantuas, where he's a gargantuan, but yet somehow this plane is like this big compared to it. But there's so many movies with the scale issue, so I love it. And that's awesome. That adds a little bit of charm to it and a little bit of familiarity. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
So, but overall, you do recommend the Thai crocodile?
Liked it. I liked it a lot. Yeah, I did get another movie called The Great Alligator, which is kind of a classic film, but my copy of it is a little messed up. So it's kind of a bummer because it was sealed, and it was like a more expensive copy because it's a more rare cover.
Yeah.
But I opened it up and put it in, and the tape's a little jacked. So I'm gonna have to order another one, and I can't really I can't blame that on anybody because it was a sealed tape, so they didn't know it was unopened. But that's what you get when you collect dead media. So it happens. So let's do this. I don't know exactly how we should go.
Actually, real quick, Jake, before we get started, did you buy anything this week? Did you get any toys?
No, not anything Godzilla related. Actually, I haven't. I've ordered a couple things from my favorite kaiju store.
My favorite too. Is it Toku Toy Town?
It is.
Nice.
And that stuff's coming, and I will show that off. But other than that, I didn't. Did you pick up anything?
Just a few smalls. But a couple cool things. I did, and I actually had a big shipment come in for Toku Toy Town. So if you guys check that out, I'll over the next 2 to 3 days, there'll be a lot of really cool stuff being popped up on there that I'll be selling. But for me, I picked up a couple really neat things, ranging from very little tiny like trinket things to a couple cool pieces. The first one is very, very small. It might be the smallest kaiju related item in my collection now. But I got this really cool, I have no idea who the maker was, but this is a cool little plastic Manda and Atragon, their Gotengo, the actual sub. So yeah, I'll throw it up there. So he's like wrapped around it to the sub, but I thought that was kind of a cool little thing. I was like, oh, I've never seen that before. So I picked that up. But a couple cool things I got. Well, you did get something. At least I think it came in. Did you, because we got the same thing. Did you get from X Plus the yours doesn't come in yet? Okay, well,
it hasn't even shipped yet.
Well,
I'm so annoyed about it. I'm so annoyed that they haven't even taken the money out of my account for it yet.
A big bad toy store, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Awesome collector on this one. The store, not me. And this is I got the monochrome X Plus Dr. Serizawa. Now, I don't like defos. We've talked about defo reels. I don't typically collect them, but until they make a really cool 30 centimeter normal looking Dr. Serizawa, this is the best one. And I went with
that's all you got.
Yeah, I went with the monochrome and little oxygen destroyer there. So I do dig that. But I know you'll get that one as well. So we'll be Dr. Serizawa buddies.
I'm so glad that the oxygen destroyer is like detachable. I didn't know that. That's going to be a fun to play around with. Yeah, I ordered the same one you did. So
cool. And
it's
then
not here yet.
And everybody knows I love the vintage Bandai line, the Godzilla collection 83 to 95. And once again, I don't actively collect it, but when I see really good deals on some of the pieces, I'll pick it up. And I was focused on the ones that I like. And I picked up two. One, which is a little tricky to find, and not to find. It's a little bit more expensive than you think, but you'll dig this one. I got with tag.
Oh,
Jaguar.
Yeah.
Look at that with the beautiful tag there. And if those can see it, it has the tag of him shaking hands with Godzilla. But I love this guy. And, there's not too much of a difference between this and the 6-inch movie monster series and everything because they don't, there's not a lot of interpretation done with Jaguar outside of Singular Point, but this was the one from 93 that I absolutely loved it. I've never had this one, so I wanted to put that one in there.
Very cool
as well. And then I picked up one more Bandai, and then I got one more vintage item, but I got this once again, one I never had, but I got Godzillasaurus.
Oh, okay.
From Godzilla versus King Ghidorah 91, which I don't have anything of him at all. So this is from the 8-inch line. Yeah. So I thought this was a cool figure to get. And then probably my biggest piece that I picked up this week was, I got the vintage Gorosaurus from Bullmark from the 70s. I have the Anguirus. They're actually behind me there, but I went ahead and picked up the standard size King Ghidorah Bullmark from the 70s. So I don't have the
looks like ice cream.
I know.
I want to eat it.
I didn't get the giant one that you see in Godzilla versus Hedorah, but I did pick up this guy. And so now I just need to get that, I need to get the Baragon, the Mechanicon, the Gigan, and of course I got to get that giant Godzilla that is in Godzilla versus Hedorah that Ken's playing with. That's one of my goals is to get that one. I don't need it super minty, but I want it a little bit. You can at least tell what it is still. So that's kind of what's on the horizon. But yeah, a lighter week, a couple smalls, but I dug it and I like the pickups.
Yeah, some good stuff, Jay. I think at some point you should, once you get all those figures, you should just recreate that entire shrine that he's playing in.
Yes.
You know, he's playing in that thing outside. You need to build one of those outside your house and put those figures in it. And that's where your wife's like, "Where's Jay?" He's out there.
He's out playing with this Godzilla on the slide again.
Toys on the
you laugh, but that might happen.
Why
not?
Yeah. Dude, those are some good pickups, man.
Thank you. Yeah, I like it. It was, a little different.
Yeah. I fucked up and bought a fucking Transformer this week, and I hate Transformers. So
you know what? You know how I know that, Jake? Because I watch Toy Anxiety every Tuesday at 9:30 Eastern time, 8:30 Central on YouTube with you, the unofficial mayor of Hateville, Georgia, Craig Goldberg, the shoguness of the Shobajin, Miss Abigail Gardner, and of course the kingpin of Canadian collectors, Mr. Ryan Dole.
Yeah,
I don't miss it. I'm on there, and I love hearing you guys talk about it. But yes, I did find out that you bought an X-Men Transformers crossover, and I was like, "What the hell, man?"
Oh, Jay, I appreciate that plug, man. Dude, let's do this.
Yes.
I don't know how we should even start, but I'll just say, for maybe anybody who didn't listen to last week or know exactly what we're doing, I picked 2 movies for Jay that he has not seen. Kaiju films, kind of kaiju outlier movies.
Yeah.
No Godzilla because we've seen it all. And Jay picked 2 movies, for me. And like Jay, like you said, these 4 films couldn't be any different from one another.
Yeah.
How do we start? Where do we start here?
We're calling this the Great Kaiju Cinema Swap, and I have to just say, like,
part one
of maybe thousands. I have to say that the funny thing is, I'm watching these films, and I just once again I think it kind of shows Jake and Jay, and maybe even though we both love kaiju and we love all this stuff, but like when we're giving somebody, like getting excited to show somebody one of these films they haven't seen, like where our head goes and what our tastes are. Because, and I mentioned this in the podcast I did by myself, but it's like you get these like groundbreaking, influential, moving the cinema world forward movies that Jake recommends that have a horror vibe, there's this very real feeling, and they're critically acclaimed and all this type of stuff. And then mine, it's one that represents the fall of the golden era of Toho, and one that was an epic flop and in the 90s for Toho. So it kind of works with where we usually go to in our film loves.
Yeah.
But I thought it just made it even better that we're talking 1970 through the 2010 era, almost 2010, a lot of 40 years, these 4 films, and they are just so different. And it was super fun watching them in like not back to back, but in a very short period of time. Cause I'm like, wow, just kaiju film in general can mean and be so different in so many different things. And these 4 films, I think, represent it in a big way.
Yeah, and you say that I pick like these groundbreaking movies, but I'll tell you my first pick was Big Man Japan. But
I'd seen it. Yeah,
I've already seen it. But
I love that movie.
I do too, and I saw that in the theater, which I was very happy to be able to see. And just the weirdness. If anybody hasn't seen Big Man Japan, like please go see it. I was hoping you hadn't watched that movie, but so dude. Should we do like one of yours and one of mine, or
sure.
One of your, or how?
Yeah.
All right, well.
And for everybody, I mean, we can go ahead and just kind of tell the 4 movies. And so everybody can, they can fast forward to the, they don't want to listen to some of these, but I gave Jake, like I said, representing the decline, the fall of the golden era of Toho, the last of what I would say classic, almost Toho movie there, 1970s. Space Amoeba, aka Yog. I don't know. I love this movie. It's a very fun one. And I was happy that you hadn't watched it because I think it does kind of hit that era pretty well. So I do, like I said, I love me some Space Amoeba. And then I also gave you from the mid 90s in the heart of the Heisei era, where glitter and beam weapons are as abundant as, oxygen. I gave you the epic fantasy / kaiju / God knows what, Yamato Takeru, also released here in the US as Orochi, the 8-headed dragon. It was released here, I guess. I don't know anybody else has seen it besides us two. But so I gave you Space Amoeba and Yamato Takeru, and you gave me.
Well, the first film I'll talk about that I gave you was this movie came out, I believe, in 2006, a Korean film called The Host. This is an outlier because it does have a monster as a creature. It's not really kaiju sized. He's big, but I don't know if I'd call him, he's not a Godzilla. But I think that movie is kind of an important film, especially because that director went on to. He fucking made Parasite last year and won the Oscar, for Best Picture. That's a great movie. And other than that, a movie that I cannot believe you had not seen.
No.
1808, how it was known for a while because this trailer came out. We'll talk about this one. I'll talk about this when we get to it. But I gave you Cloverfield. I could not believe you hadn't seen Cloverfield.
Yep.
Let's start with Cloverfield. Listen,
do I have to explain myself?
I want to say before we get into what you thought of this movie.
Yeah.
So Cloverfield, when it came out, I don't know how familiar you are with, when this movie came out, it was like a big deal. It was the best like viral marketing ever. Mm-hmm. The teaser trailer for this movie dropped in front of. We're bringing it back around, the first Transformers film, which is the first and only Transformers movie I have ever seen or will ever see.
You didn't see the 86 animated film?
No,
that one's good. Good soundtrack.
I hated Transformers as a kid. I hate it now. So I went to the theater to see Transformers, and there was a teaser for Cloverfield. Did not have a title at the time. It was just a minute-long teaser of something happening. It's a monster because they're saying things like it's alive. The head of the Statue of Liberty comes down. And then it just says 1808. And I remember being like freaking the fuck out. I got to figure out what this is. It was a big campaign. I went to New York at some point before that movie came out. Mm-hmm. And in Times Square, there were these giant billboards of just like... the two female leads like looking up at something and crying, and it just said Cloverfield. Yep. And I remember like that was insane. You somehow let that slip by.
I must have had the vaccine because that viral marketing did not affect me.
Let's hear about your.
I don't. There's no real reason. I'm thinking. I'm trying to fill in some gaps. So it would have been like 2007, I guess, when all that would have hit. See, I was living in San Francisco at the time. I definitely saw Transformers in the theater. I don't know. Maybe I thought it was too good, and I just thought it was like an alien invasion movie or something. Yeah. And then when I figured out that it was a monster movie or kaiju movie, maybe it was either this. I was either like, okay, I'll watch it when it comes out, or or when it comes out on for rental, or maybe I was like, I'm not watching American kaiju movies. I mean, I'm still burned out from 98 now. No, I don't know. And then I think it was one of those just kind of a snowball effect. It was like, oh yeah, I'll watch it. Oh yeah, I'll watch it. Yeah, I hear it's good. Okay. And then of course you start piecing together like what it, the I don't say revolutionary might be too dramatic, but like, with the found footage and all that type of stuff and all the things that Cloverfield did to really make a name for itself and be kind of in the lexicon of cinema. And then I was like, okay, I get it. Okay, it's found footage, monster, blah, 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 blah. And then I just never watched it. And I've always been like, yeah, I'll watch it one day. Nothing against it. And then it took YHS on Monster Island and the Great Cinema Swap #1 for me to watch it. So I did.
Cloverfield's one of those movies where I was super excited for it and I loved it when it came out, and I've definitely gone back to it and rewatched it. And there are things that I think that movie does really well. But it also does, I don't want to speak for like the entire kaiju community, but I feel like when you are a person who loves kaiju movies and you've seen tons of them and you've seen all of the Godzilla movies and the Gamera movies and, The Host and Space Amoeba, just everything, when you've seen all of that, and then you watch J.J. Abrams, I want this to be the Americans Godzilla movie. Part of it is like, okay, try it again. It's cute, but it's not Gamera, Attack of Legion,
No.
So, but I like Cloverfield, man. I got a soft spot for it. What did you think of it?
Well, I'd say the one sad thing, because I don't have a time machine, is I do think I knew going into it I was going to lose a little bit of if I would have seen this at when it came out, right, in the height of the viral marketing, like sucked into it and not really knowing what I was going into, because I knew too much to where like I wasn't going to be as shocked and surprised as maybe you were when you went to go see it. You might not have known everything that was going to happen. And the found footage thing, like I said, it's been done since then. And so like some of that, I didn't have as much of the wow factor on that piece as I probably would have had I seen it in 2008. So I understood that, because I still liked it. And I liked the found footage aspect to it. It still felt like, even though it's been 13 years, it still felt kind of fresh. And overall, I thought it was a very enjoyable film. And I don't think it's one I'll watch like religiously, right, every year. I'm not going to pop that in. I'm not going to have it on in the background. But I thought it was unique, and it was fun, entertaining, I should say. And it fits into the Jake mold because everybody dies. But
everybody dies is the best thing. I think some of the things that work for me in that movie are you keep the monster hidden a lot of the time, and the times he does pop up, it's kind of dramatic and fun, and the ways they come across it, the parasites that fall off of it are cool. One of the things that I think like I retroactively dislike about it a little more anytime I watch this, feels kind of harsh, but I loved the creature's design at first, but now when I watch it, I kind of am like, well, it's kind of a boring texture and color. It's just a white grayish creature. And at this point, at the time, this wasn't as big of a deal, but I feel like at this point in 2021, American monster movies make too many monsters with the elongated arms. Like it's a thing now. Whenever the Mutos first were revealed, I was like, again with the big long arms, because I don't know why that's a cool thing for us to do. And I know Cloverfield was a little earlier. So it should get a little more of a pass. But now when I go back, I'm like, if J.J. Abrams was trying to make the American Godzilla, maybe his creature could have looked a little better. But I like the way it moves. I like the way you kind of look at it as like almost like an infant, and it's like not knowing what's going on. And the other thing that I think was so good, and this is something you would have completely missed out on, is when the trailers came out, and then even when the movie came out, there was, like I said, the viral marketing. There were like websites about like Slusho, and like like some drilling, that off-sea drilling that was happening that may have woken the creature up, and then the movie happens, and the very end of the movie, after they die, the tape cuts to what was recorded before it. And I don't know, I'm sure you either already knew about this or maybe you saw it, but they're on a swing, or they're on a Ferris wheel or something, and they're filming in the ocean,
in the background,
and you see something hit, and through viral marketing, you found out that was a satellite, which apparently woke up the creature. So there's like that kind of stuff is fun. I love that. And I remember when the movie came out, there was a big Slusho thing. And I know J.J. Abrams now, he just put Slusho in everything, but at the time it was a big deal.
Well, I think I like the creature design, but you're right. Like, I think if we look at it through the lens now, like there might be some, it might fall into that bucket, but I like it. And I like, to your point, the Jaws Rodan 56 feel like the monster's not overexposed, and you see some of the damage and some of the death and stuff without seeing, just a daylight battle of the monster. Right. I will say, having heard like all the J.J. Abrams stuff, like he tried to make the American Godzilla and stuff, I agree. I don't think that monster was going, I don't think a weird alien bug Starship Trooper type thing would have been something that, your Godzilla is going to be an iconic thing that everybody represents. This represents monster. I mean, Godzilla, there's so many touch points with his design that people can relate to. It's breathing fire. It's a dinosaur. And whereas this is just a little bit too much of a, alien-esque type thing that I don't think it was ever going to do that. But the movie, I liked it. And like I said, I do think it holds up to some degree, but once you get over that initial shock value and that kind of like, okay, here's what they did. I said that I don't think there's a lot of rewatchability here to me, like compared to like our other kaiju. I mean, how many times can you watch Godzilla versus Biollante in a weekend? You can probably watch it 15 times. Whereas like, I don't think Cloverfield would ever be that, but that doesn't mean that's not like a negative, because I don't think what it was going for is going for, I'm going to do something so unique and different. And I think it did that. And the creature design, like I said, it was not a problem for me. And I did like the little offspring parasite things that came up and bit the one girl and had her explode. And like, there was some really cool stuff.
Some weird stuff. Yeah. I liked all that too. And another thing that I liked at the time, so going back to saying how you never really get glimpses of the creature and you do see it, but there's never a really good time where you have a good sense of exactly what you're looking at.
Yeah.
And I remember whenever that came out, shortly after they revealed, I believe it was Hasbro, did a figure. Yeah. And it is like my white whale. I want it. I remember at the time it was like $100 and I was like, I can't buy that. At the time I was like $100 for a toy. I can't do that. And I didn't buy it. And now whenever you find it like on eBay, it's like $1,500 out of the box. It's expensive figure. But I remember when the figure was released, it was like, oh, cool. Finally, we get to see what the monster looks like.
Yeah.
That was like your first real clear image of its entire body. Like you see its head plenty of times, but it's like his little appendages that are like sucking people up or whatever. Like you never really get to see that really good in the movie. So
yeah. Well, the other thing on this one that I'm curious to hear your thoughts on, and I thought might've been, I'm going to say negative, but not something where it ruined like the enjoyment of the film. I don't know if I really, maybe with the exception of the I almost said Erlich Bachman, whatever character TJ Miller played, except for him, like, I don't know if I liked any of the people. I don't know if any of them, I think they were just almost like they were kaiju fodder. I don't know if the girl they were trying to save was like, I don't care. Like I have no care. Like
none of them. Yeah. None of them are particularly likable. And I feel like the party that they're having at the beginning tries to make them kind of funny. And like, they try to get you into, his like drama about he's leaving for Japan, but his girlfriend is like, but they all kind of come off as like just rich kids who don't, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't particularly care for any of them either, but HUD was funny and it was kind of fun. His reaction, his back and forth with, God, I can't remember her name, but the actress who blows up.
Yeah.
They kind of have a fun back and forth throughout the film. Dude, I like it. And I like that it kind of also, it's like on one hand, it's kind of a bummer that it didn't get like a straight up sequel, but there are 2 other Cloverfield movies, which I'm guessing you haven't seen either.
I haven't seen those yet. No, but I did look up to see, like, if I needed, if they were must watch right away. And from what I can tell, like, I can probably ease into them.
They're like, so the thing with the Cloverfield series is they're basically like the second movie. It's weird because the second movie feels like, it's got like big time, John Goodman is in it, and it's got like, what's her name? Mary Elizabeth Winstead or whatever. That might be wrong, but there's like real actors in that movie, and it feels like a real movie. And I say out of the 3, 10 Cloverfield Lane is the best movie.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But it's very different. It's got loose connections to the first movie. There's some Easter eggs there. The third movie, which I thought my mind was blown when this happened. Super Bowl weekend. I hate sports, but Craig Goldberg likes football, and I think that's the Super Bowl football. And
it is. Yes.
I was in Atlanta, and he made me and Abby watch the Super Bowl. And during the Super Bowl, there's a preview for a secret Cloverfield movie. Not only has there been zero talk about it, they were like, this movie is dropping on Netflix immediately after the Super Bowl.
That's awesome.
So in one day, you're like, we're getting a new Cloverfield movie tonight. That is the craziest thing ever. And that movie's also really good. And it has definite connections to the first Cloverfield. If you're going to watch it, I won't spoil it, but it's very different, but it does directly tie in with the first film. So
nice.
That makes me happy that those are still, that wasn't that long ago. That third Cloverfield movie, the Cloverfield Paradox is what it's called. That's the one that's like
it's like in space or something. There's like a space.
They're on a ship and there's weird shit happening on a ship. It's also a fun movie. So it's not full of kaiju, but if you want to watch it, check it out.
No, like I said, I'm glad that I finally got to erase the black eye, the black mark that I had on me and my kaiju cred for never seeing Cloverfield.
You gotta see
at least my American kaiju cred. And it was, and like I said, it was good. To me, like everything that I thought it was like it really, like, I get why this was such a big deal, and I get like why people love it, and I get why it was important at the time, and really, like I said, pushed and did some different things and pushed, not only J.J. Abrams, but kind of the American film scene forward a little bit. And I it was great. And I did enjoy it, but it's not one that's, like I said, I'm not going to pop it in the VCR tomorrow and watch it. So, but it was good. I'm glad I did.
Yeah. Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Cool. Let's move on to one of your picks. Which one do you want to do?
You know what? Let's do, since we went to the most recent of all of them, let's go to the first one, the oldest of all the movies, 1970s Space Amoeba, also known as Gezora Ganime Kamibes, Decisive Battle, Giant Monsters of the South Seas, or Gezora Ganime Kamiba Kesen Nankai no Dakaiju, which is
that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it, huh?
Or Yog Monster from Space, or whatever the official title is. But I picked this one because, it's a little bit, I won't say it's a forgotten film by any means, because I do think people are aware of it. I mean, especially Gezora, the big squid. I mean, I think he's the image of him is very iconic.
He was all I knew about this movie.
Yeah. But I like it because it's really the last of that kaiju eiga boom period, right? Of the 60s going into the 70s. And we know the 70s really kind of started a little bit of the transition, right? More it's going to Tokusatsu on TV. Ultraman is just really just growing, and Godzilla's has to kind of reinvent himself. To put in perspective, this is the last of the island type series, right? You have Son of Godzilla and Destroy All Monsters, and Godzilla's Revenge, and Space Amoeba. The next movie Toho puts out is Godzilla versus Hedorah. Talk about the jump between Space Amoeba, and Hedorah, which we reviewed a couple episodes ago, which is amazing. I think one of my favorite episodes we've done. And I just feel this is truly like the end of what we think of as classic Toho, because Hedorah and then Gigan and Megalon and the two Mechagodzillas, just different style. So I feel like this is kind of bookends that era, kind of the 60s, even though it's 1970. It's the first movie after the death of Eiji Tsuburaya. It's that classic Toho cast. We talked about in Hedorah how you don't get all those the classic Toho actors, the Akira Kubos, the Kenji Saharas, etc. Yoshia Tsuchiya's in this one. And I think I wanted to kind of like, hey, I think you as a kaiju connoisseur need to see what I think is kind of the nail in the coffin of golden era Toho. And so that's why I chose Space Amoeba and all of its wacky weirdness.
I'm glad you chose this one, because it is so both of these movies that you picked are movies that have always like sort of been on my radar, and I've been seeing images from forever, but just didn't quite know what it was. So I was glad to see this one. I really liked this movie. I thought the plot was really like the plot of like a weird space creature making its way to Earth and then kind of taking over and mutating different animals. I just thought that was very cool. And it reminded me a lot. I mean, you just said this, but it reminded me a lot of Son of Godzilla. Like just the whole island thing, the way it felt a lot like that movie. And I like that movie. And it also reminded me of certain parts of King Kong versus Godzilla, not just because the same song is in it. I was like, at one point I was sitting here and I was like, oh, that kind of sounds like the King Kong song. But then I was like, it's straight up the same song. And I looked it up and I guess like they changed some of the lyrics, but it's the same song. They just play it throughout the entire movie. I like this a lot, and I really liked the crab. Yeah, I did not know that there was going to be. I did not know that there was more than just the squid. Yeah, and when the crab, I was like, that crab design, I think maybe is better than the Ebra design. Oh, I agree. I was like, this looks great. Like the turtle thing was a little weird, but the battle that they had, I was like, I felt bad when they both fell into the volcano. Yeah. I really liked that crab. I was like, that crab needs to be in more movies. I thought the plot was, I just liked it, man. I thought the plot was cool. It was definitely like like this would make a good drive-in double feature with Son of Godzilla.
Yeah, you know, and I'm right there with you. Like I picked this because I do like it. And it's not, I'm not gonna say it's like a hated movie, but most people are like, it's there. You know, it's like it is what it is. Like it's not like terrible, but like it's not good. And I like it. I think, to your point, I think the plot is it's solid. It's built on a really good core, and they don't do anything to make it too wacky, and like they just kind of stick to it. It's very kind of straightforward. And I think they execute it well. I think it's acted well. I do think Akira Kubo is great in it. And I think Yoshida Tsuchiya as the professor, seeing him as, I mean, he went from controller of Planet X to that. Like, I don't know. I mean, him as a straight man, I thought he was really good in it as a kind of just a good guy. But I thought it was solid. But and I thought Kenji Sahara as the over the top Obata, the bad guy that's trying to steal the plans. Yeah, I thought he was great in it with the beard and everything. Yeah. But the only thing that was like weird to me, that is still weird to me, is Gezora, who you think of as kind of this marquee kaiju in it. He's like dead halfway through it, and dies. And it's. At first, it's like, that's weird storytelling, right? Like, why you have that, and then you have these two monsters that they didn't spend as much time, are just kind of thrown into the final battle, which they just kind of go crazy with because the bats are messing with them and stuff, and you get Kamibas and Ganame doing that, and that was weird to have like kind of two more inconsequential monsters in the final battle, and Gezra kind of just bow out halfway through. Other than that, like, I think it's a solid movie. And I really enjoy. I can't watch this without smiling. I really do dig this.
I liked, one of the things that I like the most about it is like, so how Ghidorah, is that how you say it?
A Gezora, yeah. I mean, it depends. It's kind of like a Ghidorah and Ghidorah.
Ghidorah, yeah, exactly. So he's very silly looking, right? Oh. So that kaiju is like, he's cool, but he looks so. When you're looking at a figure of him or just a still image, he's less silly than he is in the movie because it's as a man walking. Oh, you know?
When he's moving around, it's awesome.
So and out of the three monsters in the film, he's the silliest looking of the three.
Oh, 100%.
But I like how straight they play it. Like when he shows up and he's attacking them, they're terrified. Like they play it as if he's a horrible, scary creature. And it works. And I liked that. I was like, that made me feel good about it. I was like, it was kind of dude, I was glad that it wasn't like, it's not a campy, like silly. I was happy with that. Talking about him dying, I see what they were trying to do to maybe show that the space amoeba was like just moving from this to that to this. But it is weird when they set it up like, they almost set it up like, all right, there's a monster that lives here and it's lived here for a while and it terrorizes everybody, but then it just dies. Yeah. So
well, what could it have been better had one other part I didn't understand, which could have been really hilarious, but would have fallen into the campy camp, would have been, you know, the Yog or the space amoeba. You know, he goes into the turtle and the crab and or the rock crab or whatever it is, and they grow big. He does infiltrate Obata, why did we get a giant Kenji Sahara? And could he been the final villain that they have to battle and throw in the
was
volcano?
waiting for something. I thought it was going to be something more than just like an extra overdubbed voice. You know, I was waiting. I was waiting for it. I also thought at some point it was going to maybe turn one of the bats. Like whenever the bats are attacking.
Oh, that would have been awesome.
I was like, oh, is one of these bats about to turn into a creature? Yeah, I like this movie though, man. I'm glad this was on the. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I liked both of these movies.
Yeah,
and I liked them for different reasons. I think maybe this is the better of the two you gave me. Yeah. If you're talking like as a straight film.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Well, the other thing is that's kind of cool about this movie is, I love Tokyo SOS and Godzilla against Mechagodzilla. I know the prequel to that, but this movie is canon in that storyline because Amoeba is destroyed by Godzilla. So, he's washed up on shore.
Oh,
so
it is. It washes up on shore.
Yeah. And so they connect that. And they even mention, I forgot the professor's name, but they mention him in the Japanese version as well. That he discovered.
Wow.
And so I love that. That's part of that canon.
It's just like that's a really cool thing to do is just have a really small throwback in a newer, I say newer, but timeline wise, a newer film to something so back in the day and weird and off the charts, and it's just like a legitimate give it like legitimacy. That's cool.
I think also the movie has a little bit of extra life in between because if you remember, Ghidorah was in the Nintendo.
He's in the game.
Yeah,
he's in the game.
I
remember being like, "What the fuck? Why is this in here?" I remember when I was a kid playing that, being like, "I don't remember this guy from any."
Yeah, I'm like, "What Godzilla movie is he from?" Yeah. It's I don't know. Like I said, it's sentimental to me because not because of necessarily like when I watched it or where I was when I saw it, but just like. I love, if you have to tell me like what era of kaiju film, I love the 60s the best. I love those films. I just, like I said, Mothra versus Godzilla to destroy all monsters and everything in between. Like I do love those. And I feel this is, like I said, the bookend on that era. And it never really gets back to that feel because once again, the 70s Godzilla is the Japan's different at the time. What people are liking is different at the time, but this represents that. And to me, it always has that little, I don't know, like I said, I don't know if sentimental is the right word, but it always has that place in my library of viewing, of like, it means something. And like I said, I think it's a fun watch. And, this is one that I think you can watch it and you can giggle and laugh, but it's also a good film. I mean, I think it's a good story and they execute it and the creatures are a little out there, but they're fun and memorable.
I think so. Yeah, I think so too. And I got online immediately and was like, I need to buy these. I need to own both of these films. So looking them up on VHS and shit. Yeah, I enjoyed it. And it's cool to see a movie that in your, fits in with the continuity of like, even if it doesn't exactly fit in with the continuity of the Godzilla films that were happening at the time, it's cool to think of it that way. Like, it literally just seems like this is on the other side of Monster Island.
It's another island. There's so many islands.
Second island. Yeah. I liked it, man.
Well, I'm glad. Like I said, it's one that I do think kaiju fans and fans of classic kaiju film tend to like it more than somebody that's more just maybe they like more modern Godzilla or whatever. Cause like I said, you have to understand what era it comes from and everything, but I dig it and it's fun. It's a fun watch and it's a short movie. So
yeah, for sure. All right, dude. So let's move on to let's do the host.
Yeah. Oh man. Oh man.
I remember when this movie came out, I saw this pretty early on. At some point I was pretty big into watching like when Old Boy came. You've seen Old Boy, right?
I know it is. I've never seen it, but I know it is.
You never seen it? So when the original Old Boy, that's a trilogy. There's 3 films. There was a time in my life where I got really heavily into like those Korean, films like that. Old Boy is fantastic. It is one of the best movies just in general. And then I heard about the host and I was like, oh, there's one of these with monsters in it. I got to get this. I thought this was this movie's fun. At times, it is a little depressing. It's a little heavy. but it's very well acted, and a lot of these actors show up in some other films around the same time. But what'd you think of The Host, man?
Oh man, so you had to show me this one right before Father's Day.
I'm so sorry.
No.
It's the perfect Father's Day.
I know,
film.
yeah.
I never know whether or not I don't like to warn people that the child's gonna die. It's not you know. So
I'm good. I can handle it. No, I'm just joking with you. But yeah, I mean, very depressing, but a masterful piece of filmmaking. I just so many layers, and I get like I know Bong Joon-ho is like this Parasite, yes, and the other films, and he's. I mean, I think this was even like the highest grossing film in Korean film at the time of its release, like of all time. And the success he does and how he just he's a master at his craft. Right. But I knew, like, the reason I never saw The Host was I just thought it was more of like a straight horror film, like whatever, like, okay, kind of creature killing people. Yay. Whatever. I just didn't know how many layers and how much depth it has. And I'll tell you, I like the monster. I like how the monster moves. I like all that type of stuff. But the stars of this film are these characters that he builds. And I want to say, like, this is where, and when I'm glad we're doing this next to Yamato Takeru, because I do think what The Host does so well, I think, is the biggest misstep for Yamato Takeru. And this is the first time these movies have ever been compared in anything of all time. So
it never will happen again.
But he does a good job of, he gives us just enough of every one of these characters, and we can kind of fill in the rest of the color of the characters, and we can kind of build them in our own minds. We know enough that he's, the brother's a college dropout and just a little bit entitled, yada yada yada, but it doesn't go into specifics, but we can build that in. Gong-do, the main guy, the father, not the father, the father of Hyun-soo, like like there's something happened in his childhood that he's a little bit more of a loser compared to his brother and his sister. Like, and he does all this stuff so wonderful. Like, I'm so connected to all of these characters during this film that it makes some of the depressing parts even more depressing. Yeah. But it could have been a disaster film instead of a monster. And I think I would have liked it just as much. It was the absurdist dark humor of these characters. These are like, and they're caricatures of these people, but like done in such a masterful way. I don't know. I fell in love. I think this is one of the best movies that I've seen, like just films that I've seen in a really, really, really long time, even though I will never watch this film again.
I'm glad you liked it. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
It was amazing.
I think, all the acting and the writing for the characters is really great. And it's really hard. There's so many heartbreaking moments in this movie. And above that, it's really about like, kind of the father's, like, you just said he starts off like a loser. And by the end of the film, he's kind of like had to man up a little bit and become a real father to an adopted child.
Yes.
And, but the creature design is really cool.
Yeah.
And I love that you get these really small, like, vignettes almost of the creature's origin. And they're very small, and they're like, what is that? They're like looking at it out. They're all standing in the water, like just kind of looking at something. And they're like, what is this thing? And the scene where they're just flushing formaldehyde into the water. They're just like, oh, whatever. We're not supposed to do this. But it's like such a cool way of telling an origin story for a creature without having to get convoluted or just show us little bits, and that's all you need to know. And the first time the creature is like completely revealed, broad daylight, there's like a giant crowd of people. The way it's done, where the main character is just like, he sees it in the distance and he's like, what is that? Yeah. And he like looks, and all the other people just kind of look over, and it's just running, broad, like, that's such a good like monster reveal, instead of keeping it quiet and it's just here it is. And it's even such a weird.
Like even right before that, him falling, kind of like hanging from the bridge and falling into the water and stuff like that. That whole thing is really awesome and different.
Yep. And dude, like, we don't have to get into like the specifics of all the plot, but the scene where he's running and he thinks he has his daughter's hand, and he looks back and he's just dragging a different child. Is such a like, it's like it sucks it
Happy
right
Father's
out of
Day. Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day. Go watch The Host. Yeah, dude, I had a lot of movies on my list to give you, and it was really hard to pick, but I just felt like Cloverfield, love it or hate it, is kind of like an important movie to watch.
Yeah.
And I was just like, The Host is just, monster or not, it's just a good movie.
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing, or not funny, I guess, but one of the things he does really well also is, we've talked about Hedorah and obviously the original Gojira, and like how like to weave themes, and you're trying to say something in a kaiju movie, in a monster movie, can be difficult. And a lot of those, there's like one big prevailing theme, right? Whether it's the the destruction of the nuclear bomb, or whether it's the environment. Like the fact that he can do how inept the the bureaucracy and ineptitude of the government, the anti-Americanism, which I know like people have debated, but like the dumping what I've read, like the dumping of the formaldehyde by the U.S. military actually did happen. Like that was a real thing. And there's that, but then there's also like the self-righteousness of all the protesters at the end, right? They're like they're protesting when like they drop the Agent
just getting
Yellow.
Agent Yellow dropped right on top of them.
Yeah, and then the reliance on technology, which I actually thought, I actually am proud to say I picked this up during the film, and I thought there's gonna be a payoff, and there was, and was like every scene almost, there's always a TV on, there's always a phone, there's always something. Even it starts out when Hyunso talks to her dad about she wants a real cell phone, and the flip phone, whatever. And at the very end scene with the kid that he adopts at the end, he asks him to turn the TV off, and I thought that was such a poetic close to this film. How he weaved all those themes in, and I never felt like I was watching something that was just covering up this director's like own opinion in his soapbox and his platform. I never felt that way, and that's when it's done effectively, right? And I go back to like the original Godzilla. I think that is a commentary in film, and this is multiple commentaries in film done beautifully. And I thought it was really powerful and not cheesy, despite this being this satirical, absurd, dark humor type film. I thought that was all done and handled beautifully and with respect to the themes and the topics.
Yeah. And I think I haven't seen Snowpiercer, but I've heard it's great. Yep. But I have seen Parasite, and I have seen Okja. Have you seen that?
No, I know of Okja, but I've never seen it
yet.
Yeah.
Both of those films do the same thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this dude he's a master at his craft, and he knows what the fuck he's doing. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's on a train or with a giant genetically engineered pig or a creature. The dude knows what he's fucking doing. So
I had only one negative on this film. And the only negative, and other than it just being depressing and I can't rewatch this.
Sure.
Because like I said, I think people hopefully will know, this is an amazing, amazing film. Everybody should watch it.
Yeah.
Most people have it. I'm one of the few that haven't. But I felt there was one big miss, and that was this whole, and I'm sure it was done by design, but as a viewer, I didn't like the feeling of this. The whole film, I'm rooting for Hyunso, the girl, the daughter, as she's surviving barely in this giant monster's pit, this sewer, right?
Yeah.
She's a badass. She is, I think the maybe the best character, and the actress that played that was just amazing. And I'm rooting for her. And of course, she dies in the end scene. Now, I'm not commenting on the choice to kill her, because that like I said, that's the story's, that's what the story needs to do. It needs to do it. I just felt that scene wasn't big enough. It almost was like I didn't know she was dead. I thought she
deserved. It's a little confusing.
Yeah, him pulling her out was amazing, but if he would have even said she's dead or something, I don't know, I was confused, and I think you're spending this whole movie rooting for her, and they sucked me in. I was number one fan on Team Hyunso the whole time, and I'm rooting for her, and it's beautiful. And if they kill her off at the end, and that's the big letdown for me, so be it. But I was like, is she alive? Is she not? And that took me out of it. I felt her death could have been bigger, because how they kill the monster afterwards is so awesome. All of them kind of like working together and teaming up and doing it. It was amazing. I just felt like I was like, well, is she gonna like wake up and do the cough and like be, oh no, she's alive too? I didn't know. So that was my only negative on the film. I thought that was a little bit of a miss, but everything else was, like I said, I mean, if you like horror-ish stuff and you're okay being a little depressed, it's an excellent piece of cinema.
You know, I felt like that the first time that I saw it too, but you know what? On my yearly Father's Day watch, I've gotten over that part of it.
Okay, I just gotta watch it every year, then I'll be good.
Every Father's Day, I put it on. Yeah, I have watched it a few times. I own it on DVD. Like, I love it. It's a great film. I'm not putting it, like you said, I'm not putting it on every Saturday to calm down. But there's some good creature stuff in there, and I enjoy it.
Yeah.
I think it's time to do this. I think we saved this one for last for a reason, Jay.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite's a weird word to say, but it is one that I do talk about a lot. And it's one, hey, when we first started kind of shooting back kaiju recommendations many years ago, now a couple years ago, I know this was one that I threw at you early on. I'm like, dude, you got to see this, because I know you appreciate weird and unusual and odd choices and everything. And I don't think it gets any weirder and odd and just unique as 1994's Yamato Takeru, Orochi the Eight-Headed Dragon, which is a remake, a re-envisioning of a movie that Toho just knocked out of the park in the late 50s, which was called The Birth of Japan, released in the US as The Three Treasures, but it's a long epic. And there's only like a little puppet of Orochi kind of at the end. It's not like, don't watch it thinking you're gonna get like special effects and stuff like that.
But I want to see that now.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in years, but it's a big kind of sprawling epic. You can imagine like late 50s, and I think Tsuburaya does oversee the special effects on that. But like I said, it's 20 seconds of a 3.5 hour film. And so it's all based on this Japanese myth, like this about the birth of Japan.
Star Wars.
Yeah,
it's based on Star Wars.
But the thing that I think is very important to know for people that haven't watched this, and I didn't tell you this, but I think I think it might fill in some of the gaps. You're like, what? This story, like I said, it's Japanese folklore, it's Japanese myth. Like, people that are Japanese and are going there watching this, they know a lot of these characters. Gotcha. It's like if we watched a film about Santa Claus, we don't need Santa Claus's origin stories. We can fill in the gaps that this, that, and the other, right? So Osu, Yamato Takeru, and Odo Tachibana, and all these, like, these are people that like the average, Japanese person, from what I can tell, would know enough about them to fill in some of the gaps. And I think that's one thing that is missing for us, because I'm like, should I like this guy? Who the hell is this dude? And so I think that's one of the things that we don't get as much backstory and character development, because it's just assumed
they just know it. They don't need it.
Yeah, and I think that hurts us as non-Japanese viewers throughout this movie, because it not only is like it's confusing, but also I think it hurts like you getting an emotional connection to these characters without getting deeper. I mean, it's a little bit like Cloverfield. Like, I don't have an emotional connection. Some of these I do a little bit better than Cloverfield, but it's just, it's different. But I love this film because to me it is a Ray Harryhausen film. If a Sinbad, adjacent to the Argonauts, a Clash of the Titans, if done in Heisei Godzilla era. And that's exactly what it is to me. And
that's exactly what it is. I didn't know much going into this movie, except for all the photos I've seen of Orochi. You know what I mean? Like, you see him a lot. He's in G-Fan a lot.
Yeah.
You always see pictures of him, and I always thought he looked really cool, but I didn't know anything about it. I don't take a whole lot of notes when I'm working on stuff for the show or any of the shows, but I took,
well, that's why we're great.
I took a few notes for this one, but I just want to read you. So the very beginning, I thought I needed to make a note. Aliens, attempted child murder, golden medal kaiju bird in the first 10 minutes of this movie. Seriously, the first 10 minutes.
And that's the most normal. That's the most normal part too.
It just gets crazy from there. So there's twins. They get separated at birth. Basically, one's going here, one's going here. Somebody just tries to drop this baby out of a window, and a giant metal bird scoops it up, flies it away. I said Star Wars just because, like, you know, there's
there's
twins.
lightsabers in
They
it.
don't know each other. I wrote, oh, we literally have a lightsaber now.
Yep.
It even makes the lightsaber noises. It's like
Yep.
wong wong. There's a lot of weird. I could not get into this plot. I mean, I just don't know how to smooth out. There's a lot of wizardry happening.
Yep.
I also wrote here. This is word for word my notes. Okay. Wow. What? Wizards. Were-wizards. He's like a were-wizard. He like
the wild spirit.
Yeah, the wild spirit just happens and his face turns and he just becomes a fucking wizard and he has powers and then they go away. And I was like, that's not something I ever would have thought of or put together.
He shoots beams out of his eyes.
He shoots beams.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Well, so the whole, like, they mentioned in there the 3 lights or the whatever. Like, those are the 3 treasures. It's like the mirror, it's the necklace,
the 3 lights. Yeah,
and the sword. Right, like
the Gamera necklace.
Yes, the Gamera necklace. That turns him into a were-wizard that shoots laser beams out of his eyes.
Yeah.
Like, this is true. We are not making this up.
This is all in the movie.
I know, and and like I said, not even the wackiest part. That's at the end. But the other thing, it's like, this is a movie that if you don't like what's going on in the scene, just wait 5 minutes.
Just wait.
It'll be something totally different.
It's going to be something really weird.
Yeah, it is. It's a little bit Lord of the Rings. It's a little bit Star Wars. It's a little bit Merlin. I don't know what.
It's all over the. I told
Space
you.
Godzilla.
I told you. I think I told you this at some point. It felt like Willow to me. It felt like I was watching Willow because it almost feels like, even though I don't think when was this? What year was this made? This
94.
in the 90s.
It was released. Toho released this in July and Space Godzilla in December. So these were,
Well, parts of it feel like it was made in the 70s. Like it feels and it kind of looks like Willow and it's got that fantasy aspect to it. There's these weird special effects beams that don't look like the beams in Godzilla versus Space Godzilla. This is, I don't know what the budget was for this movie, but it went into the random monsters that pop up here and there. One thing I also wrote down that I thought was very funny is that, so, you know, when he's earlier in the film, he's trying to get to the cave. Yeah. And I can't remember if it's his mother or some woman is like, hey, you never go to this cave again.
Oh, his aunt. Yeah.
And he goes and he looks at her and he looks at her and says, yes. And then it immediately cuts to him back in the cave. I thought that was so
kids
funny.
are going to be kids, man.
Yeah,
kids are going to be kids.
Of course.
The crazy thing is, like, if you think about like 90s Godzilla films, the cast here is like a who's who. Like, I mean, it really is. I mean, it
was full of familiar faces.
Yeah, I mean, and me, I'm a big long before I was a married man, a huge crush on Yoshiko Sawaguchi, who plays Odo Tachibana. She was also the lead in Godzilla 1985 or Return of Godzilla. And then she was, and this will make you happy, she was Erica in Godzilla versus Biollante. So she is forever linked with Biollante. But then the guy that plays also oh shoot, what's his name? I have it written down here. I can't remember. Masahiro Takashima, whose brother is also in the Godzilla stuff. That's Aoki in Godzilla versus Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla 2 in the Heisei era. But then he comes back and he plays the X-3 pilot and destroyer, which his brother played. Who they like? I don't know if they're twins. They look like in Godzilla versus Biollante. So they have that. So he is that, and then you get but the other one that I thought was the funniest was because we talk about Godzilla 2000 so much, and Kitagari, you know, the bad guy, he's the bad guy in this one. Is Tsukunomi. Oh, he's so great. And I'm like, they're the eyebrows. There he is. But what a perfect role for him, even better than Kitagari, I think. But there's just so, and Koichi Ueda's in it as well. He has to be in every Toho film from, I think it's Biollante to Final Wars. He has a bit part, and he was the guy that gives off his daughter, and they trick him when they're at the Kumasu Takeru. He's that old man that plays into that plot, and of course the best part is, and I didn't know this when I originally watched this, Kumasu Takeru, the guy that plays the big barbarian guy that gets killed, that is what's his name? That the actor that played the original Kamen Rider the first. So Hiroshi Fujioka. And so like Kamen Rider's in this freaking movie as well. So he plays the big barbarian king guy that is that Yamato Takeru kills. But yeah, I mean, it's the weirdest thing. But what'd you think of the monsters in it? So we talked about the bird, but we got to talk about the two middle monsters, the lava god and the sea monster.
Yes. So the bird looks kind of dumb to me.
Oh, it's a worse fire rodan.
It's weird. It's weird to be like, let's show the bird a meat. Like the bird's the first monster you see because it's like, oh, okay, that's what we're doing. You said this is like a Harryhausen film, and it really is. Like, when you're watching the old like Sinbad movies or whatever, he's just on a quest, and then randomly monsters show up. Yeah, this monster's the same. This movie's the same. The lava monster I thought was cool. I was like, okay, I like this guy. Yeah. The sea monster is the best monster in the movie. Dude, I love the sea monster. Yeah. He kind of looks a little bit like Legion from the Gamera.
Like he's with Gabara's head.
He's got, but he's got like the same shape and the tentacles. But I was like, I'll watch a whole movie with this sea monster. I thought he was cool. He was like kind of fun. He was like kind of menacing. Sea monster, I loved him. I loved him. And the magma monster reminded me more of like, he almost looked like a minotaur or something. He's like very bestial. But I think those two creatures and Orochi are on a different level than the bird. I don't like the bird.
Nobody does.
Orochi's cool. Like, who doesn't want to see an 8-headed King Ghidorah, basically?
Like, on rollers. His feet never quite touch
I love
the
that
ground.
though, because it reminded me of Biollante. Like any scene where he's coming slowly right at the screen, I was like, it's the same angle and it's the same cut of when Biollante's doing that thing, and you can't tell if Biollante has legs or what's propelling her. It just reminded me, it's just slow and big coming at you. He's got kind of a weird, they don't show a whole lot like back of him looks like. And I looked up some photos, so I can try to get good clear. He's just like a slug basically. His body shape is weird in the back, but I liked all the monster stuff in this movie is great, and I liked how it just sporadically just happens out of nowhere. There's like a Zord in the end. There's a big robot.
It's King Ghidorah versus a Megazord. That's what it is. Yeah,
that's literally what it is. And this movie is kind of batshit crazy.
Hey, and you know what? The other thing, and this actually does, if we look at it as true like storytelling, this hurts the tension. But if we look at it kind of like how crazy this movie is, it makes sense. You can die and just come back. I mean, he dies like he gets stabbed in the neck. He gets stabbed in the neck.
Oh my god! When he got stabbed, I was like, "What?"
And then he's fine.
But it's like kind of a brutal stab. It's like there's some blood, and it's like, his skin is like.
Oh, and hey, we gotta for those listeners at home, if you're not already confused, he was stabbed in the neck by a priest who was born from one of Orochi's teeth. So
it's similar to Singular Point. I feel like I have to watch it again before I can understand it. Well, I'm still confused by some of it, but I'm so happy with your two picks. I really am. And I'm mad at myself for taking this long to see them.
Well, how about this? And the best part, to close out the film, you get this pop song that's like, it oddly fits, but it's like whatever. And that song "Rain" by the band Glay was a big mega hit in Japan. So and was written for this movie, but like it's nuts. That was in this film, and that's what closed it out. Like, why not?
As I was watching it, I tried to look up a little bit of info for it, and it popped. One of the things I saw before the movie had actually ended was like the song at the end was a big hit, and I was like, "Oh boy, I'm in for a song." Okay,
it's there.
Of course, it's there. It's like with a movie like that, if there was no weird pop song at the end, I would be like, "Well, come on, guys, we made it this far." That movie's fucking crazy, dude. I don't know what else to even say about it. Like, that's if I'm gonna, out of the 4 movies we talked about tonight, if anybody's listening and they're only gonna watch one movie, watch this. I don't care how good the host is. watch this movie.
Yeah. Oh, and the sad thing is this movie was a flop. They had plans to make this a trilogy, The Three Treasures, and it just didn't perform in the box office.
We need to get like a Kickstarter going or a petition or something, and YHS on Monster Island needs to get this series back in production.
Yamato Takeru 2, The Return. Yeah, that'd be amazing. Son of Yamato Takeru. Yeah, it's and here's the other thing, and this is what I'll leave it at this, and I don't know when this will happen, but they did make Bandai vinyls of this film, and I need to collect them. They made The Bird, they made Orochi, who is very expensive. They made the Sea Monster, they made the Lava Monster, they made the warrior at the end, the Megazord warrior at the end.
Yeah.
And so all 5 of those are available on like an 8-inch vinyl from mid 90s Bandai. So
that's amazing. The thing that gets me very excited, and that I got excited during both of these films, is when there's monsters that pop up that I'm not familiar with. Like I had seen Ghidorah before. I had seen Orochi before. Like I knew what I was getting into, but like I kind of just, for some reason, thought those were the only monsters I was getting. You know what I mean? So like whenever
bonus monsters,
when the crab showed up, or when, you know, the lava monster showed up, I was like, oh, how have I never even seen, like, I'm sure maybe I've seen photos in passing and just didn't know what I was looking at or something. But to be so into kaiju movies that I'm hosting a podcast about it, and for those monsters to just have always been out there and I've never even seen a photo. I read GFan and I just never even noticed. It's like they just pop up and I'm like, this is a good monster design. Like that's exciting to me.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad. Like I said, these are 2 of my hidden gems, I guess, that I like. I like I said, I think it might be, I think especially Space Amoeba is a little bit more known, but Yamato Takeru is like, it has a special place in my heart. And I know it's not it's not a movie that most people like. They pick on it a lot and some of the flaws, but if you just want to sit down and watch a movie that you're just sitting there like, what am I watching? This is a pretty good one to do.
This is it. Yeah, this is the one.
If you can't tell from our commentary, and we didn't make any of that up. I promise. This is a real film.
It's a fucking weird movie. I loved it, and this was a very successful. I think this was a very fun idea episode, and I think we're gonna do this again. I'm gonna maybe make you watch The Mist or 2010 Moby Dick. Have you ever heard of that?
No, I've never even heard of that.
There is a movie. I'm gonna give a small Moby Dick tangent here. Okay. You're familiar with the story of Moby Dick.
I'm very familiar with the story of Moby Dick. Yes.
Now, I've never read Moby Dick, but it's on my list. I want to read it. It's a big book. But at a certain point, I got sort of obsessed with the Moby Dick films, and I just started watching there's a couple of different versions out there. I just love the idea of a giant whale just fucking shit up.
And Queequeg's coffin.
Exactly. And I found out that there's a movie called 2010 Moby Dick. It's one of those like asylum sci-fi movies or something. Nice. Barry Bostwick is in it, and he plays Captain Ahab. And the Pequod, instead of a ship, is like a giant war submarine.
Okay.
And Moby Dick is like a 200-foot prehistoric whale. And it is the silliest but also maybe most amazing adaptation of, there's like direct lines from, like, there are scenes where Barry Bostwick is just reciting Moby Dick. Yes. And like there's a ridiculous looking whale. I own it I'm like looking to see if I have the DVD cover because I can show it to you, but it's insane. And like almost the entire third act of the movie like takes place on an island for some reason. They get out of the Pequod and they're on an island, and Moby Dick keeps like beaching itself to try to attack, and I'm like, it's on land. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to make you watch that.
That would be hilarious. No, I don't mind that.
But it's 100% a kaiju film. I always tell people about 2010 Moby. You didn't think you were hearing an endorsement for 2010 Moby Dick tonight.
Yeah, I don't know if I can compete that. I do have one that I have tucked away that makes Yamato Takeru seem like a very simple plot that's straightforward and follows a linear path. And that is Super Inframan from Hong Kong.
I've heard of this one.
It's a lot. It is it's a weird one, but there's so much good stuff out there. I won't just try to make weird ones for you. I'll get some that actually but at some point, like we've seen a lot, so it'll be kind of,
I know it's going to be a little hard. Both of these, though, I thought were good movies, and even though Orochi is like insane, I think Space Amoeba is like that's just straight up a good movie, and it kind of bums me out that maybe it didn't do as well as it should have, because I think it fits. Like if Godzilla was in that, it would feel just like a Godzilla film.
It'd be amazing.
It's great. Yeah,
and it's an easy watch. Like it's one that like you can put on, your kids can watch it, you can put it on and kind of in the background, and you probably can pick up what's going on, or you can sit there and like watch it. It's a good one. Whereas the host in Cloverfield, it might be a little bit different. You might want to
a little different.
But I loved it, and thank you so much for picking these two movies. And I feel more intelligent having watched these two, and at least more cred in the world of kaiju. So I dig it, and in all seriousness, The Host is an epic film, and I really do that if you haven't watched it, you should absolutely go watch it, especially if you love film and cinema. And if you do, you probably already seen it. But I thank you I feel a better human being for having watched that. So thank you.
Well, I think you are. I think you are a better human being for having seen it. Yeah. Seriously, any of these 4 films, if you haven't seen them, just watch it. They're all 4 of these are worth a watch, I think.
But not on Tuesdays at 9:30, 8:30 Central when you're watching Toy Anxiety.
Exactly. Exactly. I think these are all worth a watch.
Yep.
Do it. Please, if you haven't seen them, let us know. If you watch any of these for the first time, I want to hear somebody else's, story or opinion on these films. So Jay,
but if you hate it, don't leave a review saying it was our fault.
Yeah, if you hate it, don't tell people we made you watch it, because I don't want a bad review. Just give us the good reviews. Yeah. You got anything else, Jay?
No, just after this, I think I might have to quit YHS on Monster Island and start my Yamato Takeru podcast. Listenership of 3, but no. It'll be Yamato Talk-aru, the talk show about Yamato Takeru. But anyway,
that's perfect.
I got nothing, man, other than I really did enjoy this. And also, we always, like, if we don't say this on a podcast, I hope you guys out there know this. We do really appreciate the fact that you're listening to us. And there's so many other great kaiju podcasts out there.
Yeah.
There's so many other great podcasts out there. Mm-hmm. And we do appreciate it. Like there's so much in that attention economy that we can get. And we appreciate that we got a little bit of yours. And we do hope that you continue to listen and leave us a good review and everything. And once again, Jake will never say this, so I'm going to do it. Check out YHS Prime. Yes, have some, the one that started it all. I mean, like I said, we wouldn't be here if YHS wasn't the epic show that it is, with Jake and Craig Goldberg and Abigail Gardner.
He's right.
And they're amazing. Right. And then, of course, Toy Anxiety on Tuesdays. It really is. It's a life of its own now. I mean, it is a huge thing. And you guys bring on some of the coolest guests there. And of course, Bad Bitches that Abby runs every other Monday is great. And it's on YouTube, and people love that.
Coming up this Monday.
Yeah. And then the other thing that has nothing to do with kaiju, other though he was in a movie with a Godzilla suit and a King Ghidorah suit, but y'all's interview with Mark Holton, Francis from Pee-wee's Big Adventure, might have been one of my favorite interviews you guys have ever done. That was awesome, guys.
He was cool, man. First of all, thank you. I appreciate that. He was a cool dude to talk to. And if speaking of, this is Monster Island, speaking of like kaiju adjacent or monster films, we talked to him about Leprechaun as much as we could. So he was a fun guest, man. And dude, we also got him kind of hooked up with he's doing a convention now that we got him hooked up with, because he was talking about how he's trying to get into the circuit and he doesn't know, and Craig pulled some strings, almost like, I think it was that night, got him booked on a convention. So he's a cool dude. I was happy we were able to do that for him. He doesn't quite know how to run social media, he's like just kind of learning. But he's out there, man. He's a good guy. And if you like Pee-wee or Leprechaun, or he's in Gacy, Teen Wolf, go listen to that episode. It was a very fun interview with him. I enjoy. And also, I don't know if you picked up, he he had watched an episode of Toy Anxiety. He did his research.
I love it.
He had told Craig was talking with him beforehand, and he had said something to Craig about how much he liked the Godzilla episode. And I'm like, oh, he watched the latest episode of Monster Island because he was just on our feed trying to look us up. So I guess he watched Monster Island. He was probably like, why do they want me on? But he also watched the latest episode of Toy, because we do Toy Anxiety on Tuesday, and then we recorded Thursday. And halfway during our interview with him, he started showing off toys.
Yeah.
And they're like old, vintage, really cool things that he had. And he did that because that's what we do on Toy Anxiety. And he was trying to, and I was like, what a cool guy, man. I thought that was so cool of him.
He should co-host all of the shows in the YHS family then.
We'll bring him on here. Hey, we'll bring him on here and be like, hey, remember that short scene in Pee-wee where there was a Godzilla film? Let's talk about it. You're not in that scene, but let's talk about it.
I love it, dude.
It was great. Thanks for all that, Jay. And I just want to say, like, I can't say any of that any better than you did. We do appreciate everything, and Jay said it all. So, guys, 2 weeks from today, we're talking about Singular Point. I'm gonna watch it again. Maybe twice. I watched it all in one day. I got up early. I watched the entire series in one day. I'm probably going to do it at least one more time before we talk about it. Yeah. I'm excited. I'm kind of nervous to talk about it.
Yeah. There's lots of opinions out there.
Lots of stuff happening. But that's it, guys. We're going to be back in 2 weeks. And I just want to thank everybody for checking in. And we'll see you next time.